Hi, everyone. I'm Sanjana Samuel, and welcome to the panel today at the SOW Summit 2020. Our topic for today's panel is the power of design and marketing, which is such an interesting and relevant topic. And we have three stalwarts from the industry here to discuss this with you. And it is my pleasure to introduce them. Joining us today is Sheetal Jaitely, an entrepreneur, avid investor, and 20-year veteran of the tech space. First and foremost, he is the CEO of Tribal Scale, a digital firm that specializes in the design and development of world-class digital products. Sheetal is an active speaker and a volunteer and member of the board of directors for the Ontario Association of Food Banks. He is also an advisory council member for Tech for Sick Kids, a mentor for DMZ at Ryerson University, Founder Institute, and Techstars. He is committed to fostering growth and innovation within the tech community in Canada and abroad. Thank you for joining us, Sheetal.
Thanks for having me.
Sagi Haviv is a partner designer at Shamaif and Geismer and Haviv, the firm responsible for many famous logos of all time, including those for Mobile Oil, Chase Bank, NYU, National Geographic, and Barney's New York. The firm most recently designed the new logo for Animal Planet. He speaks about logo design around the world, including for TEDx, Princeton University, the American Advertising Federation, and Columbia Business School, amongst many others. He teaches visual identity design at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. Great having you here, Sagi. I know it was early morning there for you and Sheetal, so I'm glad y'all could make it. We also have RajDeepak, who is a native of Odisha, one of the most disaster-prone states of India, because of which, with his doctor dad, a large part of his childhood was spent being part of flood rescues and spending school breaks in village hospitals. These experiences taught him one of his biggest life lessons, empathy. So when he joined advertising, his goal was to use creativity and help brands make a positive impact on human lives. On the way, while creating humankind work, which is impactful and change-oriented, he has also won multiple Grand Prix and awards at Cannes and Spikes Asia. But he believes his biggest creation till date is Apollo 11, a specialized division of Leo Burnett India, consisting of what he calls the mutant creatives. Thank you so much, Rajdeep. It's wonderful having you and the rest of the panelists here. So diving right in, the first thing that comes to my mind is how did the three of you get started in the world of branding, advertising, and marketing? Any of y'all can take it away. Sheetal, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. I feel I've fallen into this space kind of in a different reality. I kind of fell into this space because I build digital products, and when you're looking at building a digital product, it's something that you're looking at more than just taking a life or a shelf life of what a campaign would do. And so it's super important to have a good brand understanding of what your digital product means, what it means to consumers, how consumers are going to interact with it, use it. And more as we start using as we're using digital products in our day-to-day life, they actually are becoming lifestyle brands. And so that's kind of how I fell into it.
Fab. That is so interesting. And Sagi, can you tell us, how did you manage to fall into this world?
Sure. I grew up in Israel and moved to New York to study design. We say brand is not a logo, and I think the other panelists would agree, and they are actually practicing the proof of that. But my focus is the visual identity, is the logo. And my beginning was in school. I studied about the company that I'm now part of. And Ivan Shamayev and Tom Geismar were really pioneers in this discipline of corporate identity. Very early in the middle of the previous century, created the Pan Am logo, and then Chase Bank, which was kind of a real innovation for that time, where there were no abstract marks for any bank in the United States. And then Mobile Oil and all these identities that went on to become iconic because they never changed. They never had to change. And the idea of making something that's simple and bold. So I studied about them in school and I became obsessed with them, obsessed with this company that did all these famous logos, and it became my dream to work for them. And when I finished, I went there and I said, I'll work for you for free. And they said, okay. So that's how I started as a free intern.
How cool is that? I think that's always interesting to kind of go out there and tell people I'm here, I'm ready to work hard, and I'm ready to get started. RajDeepak, tell us, how did you begin?
I think I didn't want you to be a doctor. Maybe I was not good enough to be a doctor. I'll tell you, like, my entire family is a doctor's family. My dad is doctor, my uncle is doctor, my aunt is doctor, my cousin brothers are doctor. So the only thing they talk about is liver, kidney, heart, brain, fever, and everything else. Like, when in fact I'm talking now, my 72-year-old dad is in the front doing the COVID. He's one of the doctors in there doing the COVID thing. And so, so the medical was the only options that I had. And I don't know, man, because my mom was a writer and a painter, and I just love that thing better. You know, I think blood was not better, the colors was better. So I think I decided to go for that thing. And most interesting thing is, like, Sanjana, is what I realized when I was to watch TV, and that time, obviously, the India just, the new liberation happened and we got into TVs and everything. The joy that we used to wait to watch ads, like what Super Bowl is to the world now, it was all the ads used to be in 1990, 84 and 85, like, wow, that's so fun. You can do this shit, you can do that shit, okay, and you can do all this madness. I think madness make me fall in love what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And no boundaries of saying what is right and wrong. I think that's the reason I just got to fall in love with advertising, and slowly from marketing slide myself into advertising as a creative.
Fab. Don't we all have to be mad to be part of this world? I don't think you can be sane if you need to be an artist. You have to have some sort of madness or a streak of craziness in you. So that's great. Thank you so much. Jumping in, Sheetal, tell us you've managed to create some really cool tech products with Tribalscape, whether it's on web or mobile. What's your approach with each product?
Yeah, this is a common thing. I think a lot of people know the answer I'm about to say, but practicing it is very different. I work with small startups all the way to startups that we create in our own venture studio, all the way to large enterprise. And we always say the product needs to be focused around the consumer, because at the end of the day, that's who's going to be using the product. And you'll be surprised how many times I walk into a boardroom and there'll be like 12 suits. If you're lucky, a couple of ladies in the room. You know, we haven't done a great job at diversity in our industry. And the person with who makes the biggest check in the room feels like they know the consumer the best, not the data. And that is completely the wrong approach. And so, we come in a lot of times with using lean methodologies. They're very well published books now. If you take Google Design Sprint methodology, or you take Eric Ries and Lean Startup, on how you can actually focus a real minimum viable product around the consumer, and then go put that product out in the wild. You could do a lot of testing, focus groups, all this stuff first, but nothing works as if you making an application or whatever it may be and actually just putting it out there for your consumers. Look at what the data says. What are they using? Why aren't they using features? What features are they asking for that you're not providing? And let it take on a life of its own. It's really, really hard. And I see startup entrepreneurs fall into this trap, and large enterprises more often than not fall into this trap. They never want to release anything until they think it's perfect and it has these 87 different features all working well. If you take a look at your phones or your devices, most of our applications do three things, and they'll do three things well. And you go to that application or you go to that site to do three things. If you use the power of three, even look at Amazon, it's 3 clicks to reward. Click, click, click. Someone's knocking at my door. I got my toothpaste. These are really lean, fundamental ways of building a product that's going to be lean, and your consumers will actually thank you and love you for it. So you can start building a lot of stickiness. So again, I can't say it enough. leverage the data in front of you. I joke around with our clients and our partners, and I say, in God we trust, and everything else is data. So I don't care about your paycheck or anything like that, and or your title. Let's look at what the data is telling us to build the right product for that consumer.
Correct. So I'm guessing the mantra is the power of three. Make it simple, make it quick, but also release your product out there and get the feedback and improve as you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Perfect. Sagi, you're a pioneer in logo design. How do you think that has evolved over a period of time? Has your approach changed? And how would you define a good logo? I know there are three parts to this question.
Yeah, a lot. Actually, the approach that pioneered has not changed very much. Even though the world is completely different, technology has changed, the rise of digital and social media, actually the approach has not changed. So what makes a good logo back then is the same thing that makes a good logo today. And I would start actually with, I think, a principle that Sheetal mentioned, which is simplicity. I think, the idea of making something simple is, kind of at the core of what we do visually. We try to strip things down to their essence. So a logo must be uncomplicated in form so it can work, function. Functionality is above all kind of the highest virtue of a logo. So it has to work in tiny sizes. It has to work everywhere. So back then, they made it simple because it had to work well in limited production methods, like halftone screen in newspapers or on the side of buildings in 3D. Now all these applications that they never anticipated on app tiles and social media avatars, those simple designs thrive in these conditions, and it's really amazing how that works. So that's one, is simple. Two is distinctive. We're looking for something that's memorable, unusual enough to persist in our mind. So you see it once or twice, you can describe it to somebody or doodle it easily on a piece of paper. That's a good test. So that's number two. Number three, we're looking for something appropriate. And we say appropriate, we don't say expressive, because the logo has to be simple, right? So you cannot say very much. And that's a lot of times kind of a misperception, and kind of people expect that their logo will tell a whole story about them. Clients walk into our conference room for the presentation and they expect to be wowed by, the storytelling that the logo will do for them. It doesn't work like this. A logo cannot say very much, but it has to be appropriate. And that has to do with personality. That has to do with feeling. So if it's in sport, maybe it's bold and dynamic. If it's in fashion, maybe it's elegant. It's really a character. And the appropriateness is what we look to our client to help us with. So we conduct interviews in the beginning. We try to understand what is that one idea or one feeling that we want to project. What is the first thing that we want people to think or to feel about us when they see the logo?
Fab. And Sagi, if I have to ask you, what is your favorite logo of all time? It doesn't have to be something that you've created. Just like, if I had to ask you, what do you think? Which logo conveys everything for a brand? It's simple, it conveys the point, it says something, and it's your absolute favorite.
Okay, it's US based, and I hope in editing you can throw that picture up. But CBS is one of the three major networks in the US. The reason I particularly like it is that it was created back in the 50s, in-house. And for me, that's like the ultimate logo. It's an eye, but it's the simplest eye that there can be. Bold. It's appropriate for the medium. And after that, it is so iconic. Nobody really doing the eye. Think about how many birds logos there are, how many star logos there are, how many, all kinds of things there are many different ones around the world. And eye is something that you hardly ever see, because that occupies so much space in the kind of consciousness of us. Nobody can make a better one, so nobody even attempts to do that. And that's power.
That truly is. That's great. Thank you so much, Sagi. RajDeepak, jumping on to you. In terms of Leo Burnett has developed some of the best campaign across the globe, whether it's for Amazon, P&G, or Tide. Tell us your mantra to connect with audiences. And if you could give us an example.
So I think, Sanjana, what's the most important thing is when people say when you do advertising, people don't get up in the saying that, I'm going to use Colgate today. No one going to talk about that. Or I'm going to use Pepsodent today. Or I'm going to drink Coke, or I'm going to drink Pepsi. No one talks that way, you know what I mean? But we are forced to say things like that. The most important thing is when you're creating the best campaign is how much you are connected with people, or what the purpose of yours is connected to the people's purpose. I keep on saying in advertising, we are not artists, or we are not capitalists. We are the artist capitalists. You know what I mean? Our job is to make sure that we make sure we have an art that actually sells, get money to people, for the brands, and the same thing good to people. So if it's what's good for people and good for brand are two different things. They come together, and they come together in the small intersection. And it's when you find that point, that you have actually cracked the gold jackpot. For instance, I will give a small example. We believe in something called humankind in Leo Burnett. It's all about people. It's all about purpose. What is the purpose that you believe in? What is the participation, or whatever is the populism, pop culture you're going to create out of it? So I will give two examples, and very quick one. One is Amazon. I think remember when Amazon came to India, they were the fourth in the market. Right, the fourth in the market. They were already Flipkart there, they were Snapdeal there, they were eBay there, and we're the fourth international brand coming to India. There was homegrown brands, Snapdeal and Flipkart. Everyone loves those brands and everything. And I remember when we came, it comes a very simple insight called, one thing Amazon had was they had that time 6 crores products to choose from. That is 6 crores will be like 60 million products to choose from. And we found a very interesting insight that, we Indian have a habit of saying or the cow. If you go to the sweet shop, you will have 5 different shops, and then says, can you have a 7th one? Can you try the 8th one, and the 9th one, and the 10th one? It's like if you go to a sari shop, you will go to check all the sari. If you want, I want a red sari with a blue border, you will see all the red sari with a blue border. Then you ask, can you have blue sari with the red border also? And you will literally, by the time the shop is on the floor and that guy still wears and shows it. Same with if you go to buy a spoon or everything, the or the cow, the term, we picked it up. And it was a part of a pop culture, and it was part of the society that we picked it up and give back to the society. And that's how we started the entire thing, or the cow happened. So it was no more about we got the best range, we got the classiest range, or can get anything on time. No, it was nothing like that. It was all the cow, the country who believes in or the cow, or the cow. You know what? Now there's a brand who can be like your or shopkeeper who is a next door shopkeeper and talk about or the cow. And we actually made it's very human to it, people. It was not a e-commerce brand on a website, but we're not an e-commerce friendly country. We were not till the cash on delivery was not that happened. In the last 5 years, I think things changed for us. So we have to make it feel like, it's exactly the same way. We made it something called Apni Dukaan. That means our own shop. When you walk into the grocery shop always talk about, I am Mr. Sheetal Ji. So the same thing happens on Amazon. Mr. Sheetal walks in. Sheetal Ji, you have bought last thing, Lord, I got something for you. Recommendation. That's how we do it. In India, when you buy a thing, you don't have to pay the money. Don't worry, I will deliver it. When you deliver it, you pay me the money. Exactly same thing, cash on delivery. We actually start having, you look at the product was designed to actually mimic the Indian grocery stores or the mom and pop store was. So it was more Apni Dukaan. So we actually created very much culture that was part of it. It's one side of it. Some places you create a pop culture, which literally become the, I remember in 2014 when INS Vikrant was going through the, government was scrapping INS Vikrant. We went to Bajaj and says, buy the scrap of INS Vikrant and make bikes out of it. Now, that was an audacity for an agency to go to clients and make a product which is totally different. Bajaj bought the ship, melted the ship, and make INS Vikrant bikes, turn into bikes called Bajaj V. Now here, what we did was we made every Indian own a piece of national treasure. So you're not owning a bike, you're owning a piece of history that 65 years that ship has protected the nation's border and everything. Now you create stories. You know what? And we create that aura about the brand. And like I told you, we don't get up in the morning and says, I need to ride a bike. I need to ride the pride. You have to own those things for people when they go for those things. And that's what makes the best campaigns.
Correct. That's amazing. I think what I saw, I think what the synergy between branding, marketing, advertising, logo is just putting people's experiences first.
Yep.
I'm guessing it's just the humankind, the nature of understanding experiences, what makes someone tick and what, makes someone kind of buy. Like, as you said, for Indians, the whole idea of apnapan is so important. The whole thing, the feeling like we are one brother, one community is so important. And that's something that you all, I think, keep picking on and using that in a lot of different ways. That was really insightful. So throwing it out to the three of you now, we are living in the world of technology. It's mobile first, no one can deny that. And for a lot of brands, a person's introduction to them via apps or their social medias. What should our viewers keep in mind before thinking about the app or product? In terms of clients, here I would say more in terms of clients, what do you think they should think about when they are creating an app or a product?
I could start off here.
Sure.
I think like they definitely need to start looking at the consumer. Also, they really need to start understanding the actions of why somebody would be looking on their phone versus looking on their computer versus on their TV. You know, there's a million voice interactions. There's so many different types of interactions that you can be having with a particular product or service now. And so they really need to look at like what is going to be the what are going to be the right use cases that user is going to be leveraging. The other thing I think also is Sagi has said it, RajDeepak said it also, that simplicity matters. Being able to go in and have simplicity so that you could find your happy moment really quick. I think our attention spans as humans, we're all, if ADD was a thing before, we all have ADD now. We're all connected all the time. Notifications popping up and things are going. It's very quick. You got a very quick moment to find that happy moment with your consumer, and that is what you got to leverage. So like make it very simple and provide that happy moment to the consumer, and then it'll start working out.
Great, thank you so much, Sheetal. RajDeepak, Sagi, anything to add?
So I will say a very interesting thing. But I like what Sheetal said. No, make it simple. Make it simple and understand what your consumer wants and how your business is going to be useful for them. I will give a small example. If you're searching to Amazon, you get exactly what you get in Amazon. If you search for ABC, I get ABC in Amazon, and plus I will see the recommendation of what the ABCs are. But if you go to something like eBay or you go to something like OLX in India, for instance, let's talk about OLX. You go there, you make you explore. But that's the business here is, because you don't know what you're doing. You're constantly exploring. Maybe I need a headphones. No. Maybe I need this, because you're buying the second-hand products or what you call the used products. So it's more exploration happening. So you have to be very careful about what business you are in. Are you a business of exploration or a business of just selling what you are actually there to buy? People are there to buy. So you have to be very careful. I'm talking about the both are same into buying and selling. But one is about exploration and one is about you just go to the point and you buy it. So as a business leader or as the CTO of the brand or understanding the purpose of the brand, you have to be very careful about what you choose.
Okay.
What you choose. Explore it. Like, I'm just giving an example, and there's multiple ways of doing it, but yeah. That's my way of saying.
That's fabulous. Sagi, anything to add?
Well, a very small point. I mean, I think just building up on what Sheetal and Raj mentioned, when it comes to packaging it and giving it a visual, a skin, keep that principle of simplicity, and also your audience in mind. Who is this for? And how is it the best, what is the best way to make it the simplest, most natural, most instinctive process to use it? And that all comes through graphic elements, color, visual language, typography, and also hierarchy of information. I think, we come in once these guys already figured everything out, and then, it's about making the experience a smooth and natural experience for the user. And for that, you know, in some way, my discipline goes hand in hand with Raj's discipline, where we, you know, we would create an identity and then kind of making it blow up and explode and you know, promote it to audiences all around, that kind of builds on that and takes it to a conceptual level. So I think, you know, that element of simplicity that you see kind of as a theme throughout, especially today, you can see that the biggest brands, the most successful brands, are the ones keeping it simple.
Yeah.
You know, the easiest thing would be to look at an Apple ad and see how few elements there are there, and even, you know, in the interface and so on. So I think that that's, you know, every startup that comes to us, we recently worked with a health tech out of Bangalore called Practo. And I think that especially we find in India, there is an instinct to decorate. I mean, I think that comes in the culture, it comes in the visual tradition, which we love. But in branding, that sometimes is not helpful. And I think that, you know, resisting that urge, and, you know, Practo is such an amazing company. They when they came to us, there were 350 employees. And by the time we finished the branding project, there were 3,500 employees. They are exploding all around the world. They're really changing the face of healthcare. And, you know, they were very quick learners. And, you know, we really kind of worked on, you know, simplicity, that idea of putting only as much as needed on a screen or on a page, and making it kind of stronger through reduction, through subtraction, is a great principle.
Yeah, you know what, Sanjana, I will just want to add into what Sagi said, because it's so brilliantly he said, and Sheetal said the same thing, because I can see there is a very interesting join happening, because I remember, like, I think in 1999, when the emoji was started, emoji was not started to send people. Emoji was started by Docomo as carrier. Docomo is a carrier to tell people about the weather. You know what I mean? So they didn't want to say the weather is going to be cloudy, or weather is going to be rainy, or it's going to be stormy. They started using small icons was created. And you know, sometimes the design plays a massive role. You know what I mean? Because it's so intuition. It actually, when you look at an iPhone, or we can look at anything, you know exactly how to swipe or where to go up and down. The design gives you those simplicity to go through an app or anything. At the same time, the technology gives you the, like, we are so much used to intuition. What Sheetal said, the intuition is so important. You know exactly how speed it should move, or how slow it should scroll, you know, based on the business and everything. I think design and intuitions are the two most important thing that actually built the best apps now.
That's great.
Yeah,
And
I can give you guys. Sorry, Sajna, I'll give you guys a real life example. I work with I work with all the major North American networks, and let's take a subset of the North American networks. Let's take news, for example, and let's take a news app. You know, we work with a bunch of them, but let's take a news app. I walk into my father's living room, and he's watching Indian TV, and he's watching Indian news, and I'm about to have a seizure, because the screen is just filled with so much nonsense. There's 5 talking heads screaming over each other. Something is breaking news and flashing at you all the time. And I can't even process what is happening on the screen. Honestly, I think, like, my head starts hurting within 30 seconds. You take a look at the North American news organizations that we work, they want simplicity. We live in a chaotic time of news. I think, you know, the Trump effect of what's happened has brought us in a very chaotic time. They're not doing it to bring your pressure and your tense level up. But what they want to do is get you the news and be first to get it to you. So Trump tested positive for COVID. Who's the first one to give you that news? That push notification, down to that push notification, I monitor on my phone which news outlet gave it to me first. Because the one that gave it to you first is where you're going to go as a consumer. Now, when you go into it, that app knows that, hey, you know what? Trump news is actually important to me. Don't let me know that Paris Hilton was at some nightclub last night. I don't care. But you know what? The Trump news is important to me. These devices know us more than our parents, you know, our friends and family. It knows where we are, what we're doing, what we're looking at, what we're shopping, who we're talking to. It knows so much information about you that in this world, it's not okay to not talk to me with at least the right contact. And as consumers, I'm trained to want those happy, when I talk about those happy moments, give me what I want, go feed the bees. When I get as your brand or as your product, right? What's right for that consumer?
I think what you, Sheetal, say is very interesting. Indian Thali syndrome. You have everything there. You have all the small dishes in what filled with the Thali syndrome. So, but it's in our head is so complicated. Simply, like there is called organized chaos. You actually look at the Indian road and just how people are not banging into each other and they're still traveling. Everyone is coming from everywhere. It's organized chaos for us. I think we are born with that. So we have actually been chaos. Okay, now we know in the TV that guy's going to talk. Okay, now he's going to say, oh, now it's been engineered
Just
for
to ask
us.
you all, do you think the Indian market is ready for minimalism and simplicity? If you think in the Indian context, as Sheetal just said, everything is what we see, how news is conveyed to us. If we just take news, there is so much of noise, but that is gaining traction. That is what a majority of the audience likes. So do you think the Indian audience is ready for simplicity and minimalism? Because those are the two things that have come out strongly in our conversation.
I'll get it started. I think in my, in the space where I work, it's not about ready or not. It's about what works, right? Yeah. So I mentioned before a logo and identity. It's about functionality, and what works is simplicity because it cuts through the noise. If you look at a screen that Sheetal just described, what your eye is drawn to is the simple shape, is the kind of uncomplicated moment. The complication is overwhelming. It just becomes a blur. And I think that in that sense, our client from Procter and others that we work with in India, there was no question they saw the value because that is what is going to make them more visible. The idea of a logo or an identity is to make you recognized, to make you be remembered. And that is the best and the only way to be remembered. And when you look at logos that evolved over time, the path is only one way: simpler, 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 simpler. So why waste all this money, revising your identity every 10 years if you can get it right from the start? And I think that, big part of our profession is making sense with clients. So it's one thing to draw something and make something good. It's a whole other thing to bring the client along so that they recognize that this is the right thing for their business. And we spend a lot of our time kind of educating our clients and making a case for a good option that we put in front of them. It's not enough to just show something and say, this is good for you. You have to prove it. You have to make a visual case. And oftentimes the easiest thing is to put a complicated logo next to a simple logo and then step away from them and make them really, really, really small and see what happens. And there's always then kind of a moment where the coin kind of drops and you're like, okay, yeah. That's the way to go.
That's interesting. I don't think a conversation would be complete today if we didn't mention coronavirus, right? I don't think we'd be able to complete the session without bringing that up. So amidst COVID-19, what do you think is the R in terms of marketing and design? How has it impacted you and your clients? And how do you think you can ask entrepreneurs or people who are watching this session to design around social causes rather than just social media?
You know,
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, please go ahead.
So our organization, we've seen a huge spike in demand. What we do is we build digital products and we transform our clients to build digital products. When you take large enterprise clients, they really struggle to work in a lean, agile way already. Now with a distributed team, they're struggling even more. And so we show them, we transform them on how to build the right products the right way. The one uptick we have seen, the first couple months in the pandemic, it was stop everything, the CFO's in charge, hoard cash, and pause all work. I think, across many industries felt a lot of pain. I think digital is one of the first industries that is coming back. I mean, the stock market is obviously reflective of that also, where organizations now have to figure out how they can be relevant in a digital way. And so their digital transformation plan they had before, I've seen like years of progress start to happen within months because they're forced to do it. This is the hand that they've been dealt. They got to play it. And what I'm seeing is there's a push for digital, but B, it's creating better experiences. And I go back to the lean methodologies that I was talking about earlier. Sure. Our clients are forced to do that now because the market is dictating that they better have a presence. So you take a financial services client of mine, a traditional way where you have to walk into a bank and go do your transaction. Online was like a little bit more of a difficult path, but if they still had it, no, let's improve that experience. I don't care if I can only make wire transfers possible online. In Canada, for example, wire transfers online was not a real thing. Even up till now, it's beyond me why that's the case. But it was. Now all of a sudden it's like we need electronic fund transfers online. Every major institution needs it now. That's all. Don't worry about all the other features that comes with it. Let's just at least get that function working. Why? Because it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the use cases are going to be solved by that one. Healthcare is another industry, right? Healthcare, where they're faxing each other all the time just to get appointments for you. Who the heck uses a fax machine besides healthcare professionals? These are people we trust with our lives, and they're still using fax machines. And so the transformation to actually be able to work in a smarter way, I think, is the biggest impact we're going to see from this pandemic, which has forced our hands to actually start working in a much more effective and smarter way by leveraging the technology that's here.
Great.
I think what we have seen a massive, like for instance, so we have been seeing the amount of spending happening on IPL. We've seen IPL is after a long time just flooded with ads and everything. The amount of spending happening in IPL ads, it's grown drastically. Like for the pandemic time, because I think so too for us, it happened. We have lost 2 quarters in a country like us, and unlike a lot of Western countries where the government have a subsidy for everyone if you don't do a job and everything. For here, you have to go and on your own living. So we can't sit at home, right? So we have to get out. Like if you are in Mumbai and you walk on the streets, see people eating pani puri. Yes, it's what the hell? Have you found the cure for COVID yet? You'd see people having bread pakoras in Delhi, streets of Delhi. One friend sent me to eating bread pakoras, and they're removing the mask like this, and they're putting the mask, putting the mask back. I said, dude, have we lost it? I said, no, we have not lost it. As a country like us, so we have 2 countries. We have India and Bharat, right? We can't be feared after a certain point of time. Economy matters a lot for us. We have to get out on the living. And if you look at it, it's a very interesting jump that we have seen in our year. For instance, there was a time when cash was the king. What I mean, from cash to the jump between cash to card has been slowly vanished, and cash to online payment has increased drastically. Like brands like PhonePe, brands like Google Pay, brands like Paytm, immediately had jumped drastically. And you can see that, the middle path of credit cards or debit cards has suddenly vanished because a lot of consumers who had only cash are now slowly jumping into this, because now not only on the smartphones, but with basic phones, you can actually do those transactions. You can see that UPI payment has increased. You can see a massive jump has happened in the financial sector. Fintech changed drastically. What it's saying, massive jump has happened for us.
Perfect. Okay. Saji, anything to add?
Yes. So just a part of your question was about, how does it affect the industry? How does it affect the business? And I love what Sheetal was saying, CFO is in charge, everything gets stopped. And in March, where things really kind of happened here, that's what we expected to happen. But actually, what we found is that it was much more complicated than that. The pandemic in some way exposed kind of the true soul of every company. And while some companies did slow down or put things on pause, actually, I'll give an example. We had just won a big project with one of the largest banks in the US. It's not public yet, so I can't talk about the name, but we thought they will immediately, push the brakes. But in fact, this company is so progressive and so thinks always 5 years ahead that they were so excited to actually push the gas and go all in on this kind of, obviously an identity project is a historic project in the life of a company, especially a humongous financial company. So for them, it was kind of an opportunity to get it right, to invest in the future. And, one more anecdote is, during the pandemic, we just completed an identity for the US Olympic Museum in Colorado in the United States. And they could not open the museum because obviously nobody could be there in person, but the community was clamoring for some good news. So they decided they will make the identity public as a way to get people to get one piece of good news, to feel good. And they did that in June. And I think that in some ways they're always, you can see in a time of crisis, who's who and what is the company all about, or the organization is all about, which is very interesting to observe.
That's true. Who is stepping up to the plate and doing something and staying strong? I guess that's important.
Sagi, just to add to what you were saying about the pandemic, it goes to actually what Raj was saying earlier too. There's opportunity in chaos. If you look at the 2001 .com bubble burst, you look at the financial crisis of 2008, you look at where we are right now in the pandemic, the companies that win are the ones that double down during this time, are the ones who find the opportunity in that chaos. I mean, if you had a complaint that as a leader in your organization, I can't find the right talent. Well, guess what? You can go find any talent you want right now. I mean, people are reevaluating where they are and why they need to be there at all given points, right? You could go double down that way. You can go double down on your consumer. They might not be spending as much with you, but go and build that bond and that customer loyalty right now. Go invest in your consumer, right? Innovation. Times have changed so rapidly. There's services and products we never even thought about yet that haven't been created yet. Go think and innovate, because there's a whole change that's happened. So go find that gap that's out in the market and go solve for that. If you look at the companies that have come in, let's just go back to the last one in 2008. You got the rise of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You go on and on of like all the apps that are sitting on the first or second screen of your phone. Now getting documentaries made about them, about why there's such villains. But all those organizations came in, all that innovation happened at a time of distress. And so go take advantage of it and figure out what your product, yourself, your organization, what role it's going to play.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Before I let the three of you go, I would just love to ask you that if you had to give your success mantra in 3 words, what would it be? RajDeepak, do you want to start?
No, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. I don't know, man. Like, it's 3 words. You are actually putting it's like a baseline.
Correct. I'm holding on to that.
No. So I think what Sheetal said, and because I believe in that. What is the last thing what you said? I really believe in that. If you really want to change the future, invent it. That's the only way.
Correct. I think that's a good one. That's a great one. Sheetal, Sagi, who wants to go next?
I got 3 words. You may have to edit it out, but it's get shit done.
That's always a good one.
And I would just say, you know, again, my world is the world of design, and we see a lot of stuff around there, and there's always the tension between, you know, what the client wants and what we think is good design. So I found that if you do great work that you believe in, then you can convince your client to go with it, but don't do it the other way around. So do great work, 3 words.
Do great work. Perfect. So we have do great work, another word that I cannot say, but get we've done. And then we have RajDeepak. So I think this is great. So thank you so much for the 3 of you. It's been a great panel. It's been insightful. It's been interesting. I think everybody who tunes in will definitely have a takeaway, will have great things to, you know, go back and resonate with. So thank you so much, Sheetal. Thank you so much, RajDeepak. And thank you so much, Sagi. It's been my pleasure. And thank you so much once more.
Thank you, Sagi. Thank you, Sheetal. It was
Awesome.
really nice chatting with you guys, man. It was fun.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sheetal.
Sanjana.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you.
great. Thank you. Bye.